Mute your phones. We will reserve time at the end of the session for questions. So if you want to jot down your questions as we go, just in case you are so enthralled by our presenters that you forget them, you'll have them written down. So. Well, good morning. It is 10:45. If you know me, I am a stickler for time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Donna Keating. I'm the Media Services Manager in Montgomery County, Maryland. You are in Tap the Fountain of Diversity in Media, which is an exciting topic as we look at our communities across the country. Many of our communities are extremely diverse. In Montgomery County, we have over 140 different languages being spoken. We have over 1 million people in our community. We sit outside of Washington, D.C., which is also extremely diverse, like you all. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Our first speaker is Abraham Gonzalez, and he is a regional Emmy Award-winning video producer. He was born in Eagle Pass, Texas, and moved to Austin to study media production and in communications. He started his career with the Austin Independent School District and now works for the City of Austin as a video production specialist. He's got great passion, and he loves to serve his community. And then I will introduce our other panelists as we get to them. Abraham, all yours.
All right. Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Tap the Fountain of Diversity in Media session. My name is Abraham Gonzalez, as she said. My presentation is going to be on what we are doing to reach the Spanish-speaking population in Austin, Texas. But before I get to that, I want to talk a little bit about why we want to reach our community in general, whether it be English-speaking, Spanish-speaking, or whatever it may be. For us in Austin, Texas, the reason why we have our station is we want to create transparency for our community so that we can empower them. We want to connect our community to information so that they can be empowered. And we want to connect our community to city services so that they can be empowered. So the reason why we produce media and why we have our station is because we want to empower our community. And in thinking about that, we start to think about, okay, so who is our community? And in Austin, Texas, we have about 1 million people that live there, and 25% of those people are Spanish speakers primarily. So what we realized was that we were doing a really good job of reaching all of our English speakers and really bringing them to these services, but we were not doing such a great job with our Spanish speakers, and we knew that we had to do something about that. And the reason why it's important is because we feel when a member of any community is excluded from information, the effect is the perpetuation of lower levels of safety, lower levels of economic empowerment, and lower levels of civic engagement. And it's not okay to have any members of our community to be disempowered that way. We also feel that when any member of our community is disempowered, the whole city suffers as a whole. So we realized that we had to do something about this. And what we could do as media content producers was to produce content for this Spanish-speaking community so that we could bring them to that transparency, so that we could bring them to those services. So we decided that this was something that we really had to do. We knew from the beginning that there were going to be obstacles. The first one that jumped out at us was that we weren't going to have any additional resources to start this initiative. We have one person who speaks Spanish in our production staff, that's me, and we have a good amount of people who speak Spanish throughout the city, but all of these people already have a long list of obligations and duties that they have to prioritize. So we knew that it was going to be a problem to create time within their schedules to help us out with this initiative. And we knew that even once we brought all these resources together and we did produce this content, we had the additional obstacle that is that the Spanish-speaking community does not seek information through our city platforms. So that highlights a huge cultural gap in media consumption that is still the hardest thing for us to bridge even to this point. But we decided that we were going to go ahead anyway because this is something that is really important. So we know that some cities have more resources to invest in producing content for non-English speakers, but we know that the majority of cities are working on the bare minimum of resources. So with that in mind, my aim for this presentation is just to share some of the conversations, some of the plans and solutions that we have developed. We have by no means mastered this dilemma, but we have taken some steps forward that we're proud of, and we just hope that you guys can get a glimpse as to what we're doing, and maybe you guys can take something out of it and use it in your cities. Okay, so when we started, we had a long list of questions that we had to answer in order to form a plan for serving our Spanish-speaking community and creating content for them. Some of the questions that we started off with were, so who is available to produce the Spanish language content for our channel? Who is available to fulfill Spanish language talent needs? Who is in touch with the community enough to speak to their needs, their preferences, their turnoffs, and their media consumption habits? What services are specifically targeted at the Spanish-speaking community so that we can promote those? Should we aim to simply translate our English language content, which would be easier in some ways? Or should we be creating unique programming and content specifically for the Spanish-speaking community, which would be a little bit better, definitely, but do we have the resources to do that? How do we balance creating enough content to draw in and maintain a Spanish-speaking audience while not overtaxing staff that has to also create and maintain the ongoing English language content? What are the free platforms within the Spanish-speaking community that we can utilize to amplify our content and messaging? And finally, as a team full of people with multiple obligations, how will we make decisions about short-term and long-term plans? So these are some of the questions that we started off with, and we haven't answered all of them, but I will start talking about some of the things that we have been doing that have been working for us. So we started off by identifying what our human capital was. Who could help us out with this mission? We started off by building a small team within our department to kind of strategize as to how we were gonna attack this issue. It's a team made of diverse talents and perspectives and obligations. So for example, we have somebody from our project management team that is in our team, and that person is gonna be tasked with helping us come up with a marketing campaign once we have all our productions ready to go, so that they can actually reach the people that we want to reach, which is the Spanish-speaking population in Austin. We have people from our community engagement office that are helping out. And the people from the community engagement office, they are in direct contact with the Spanish-speaking population on a regular basis. So they are really vital in informing our decisions as far as production topics, so that we're creating content that not only brings that community to the services, but also that is of high interest to them so that they can keep coming back again and again. They are also very in touch with their cultural habits, so they can also inform to what we don't want to put on our channel that might turn them off and dissuade them from coming back. That was a team that we built within our department, but we also reached out to every department in the city, and so that they could help us out and tell us what programs and what events and what initiatives we could be promoting. So throughout the year, I will send out an email, and I'll be like, hey, to all of our departments, and I'll be like, hey, do you guys, we're looking for Spanish language content. Do you guys have any events, any initiatives, any programs that you want to promote? Please let us know. Keep in mind that this is for the Spanish-speaking community, so make sure you don't send us everything. Just look through your programs and see what is relevant to the Spanish-speaking community so that we can prioritize those things, and we can really be delivering information that is gonna impact that Spanish-speaking community's lives. So every time I send this email, I get overwhelmed with a ton of requests, which is overwhelming because we don't have the resources to satisfy all of those requests, but at the same time, it's a good thing because now we have a library of topics that we can be streaming out throughout the year, and that way we can keep our content fresh, and people who are coming back are seeing something new every time. Anyway, so we included all of our city departments in that way. In terms of people to be in front of the camera, we did a call for auditions. I sent out an email and I said, hey, you know how to speak Spanish? You want to be on TV? This might be your chance. We have a couple of days. We're going to be holding auditions. Make sure you sign up. And if you have a little bit of time that you can spend in front of our camera, we would love to have you. So we did a call for auditions, and we had a really good response. It did take a little bit of time to do, but now we have a handful of talent that we can pick from whenever we need. So that has been a really good resource for us. I'm going to start getting into actually once we started building our productions and what type of programming we started doing. So to start our productions, we decided to start by building on something that had already been really successful for us in reaching, engaging, and keeping an audience, which is our award-winning bi-weekly magazine show, City View. And if you guys haven't seen it, it consists of a handful of 2-minute segments that talk about different topics and events and programs going on around the city. So it had been really successful for us, so we decided to do a companion piece in Spanish that we could produce quarterly and that we could deliver to the Spanish-speaking community. And I'm going to start playing a little bit of it so that you guys can see kind of what it looks like.
En este episodio de City View en español, una clínica que le ayuda a componer sus posesiones favoritas. Aprenda cómo ahorrar en sus facturas de electricidad y agua este verano, y la Oficina de Supervisión de la Policía lo invita a compartir sus opiniones y experiencias. Hola y bienvenidos a City View en español, un programa diseñado para traerle la información más relevante sobre la ciudad de Austin. Mi nombre es Judith Olvera, gracias por estar con nosotros.
She's one of the people who auditioned for us,
La Oficina de Supervisión de la Policía anima a los residentes y visitantes de Austin a aprovechar las nuevas.
So one of the things that we had to decide when starting this City View en español companion program, we had to decide whether we wanted to just take the content that we already had in our English city views and just kind of translate it and use for City View in Español. And that would have been easier because we already have a lot of video for that, and we already have scripts that we can translate. But ultimately, we decided that it would be way better if we just tackled topics that were really going to impact that community. For example, this first package that we're showing here is about how people can complain if they had any problems with the police, and that how there will be no repercussions if they do. So just, you know, issues like that that really do affect that community, we decided to focus on those instead. The cool thing about this too is that this magazine show consists of nothing but 2 or 1 minute segments. So once we air the show, we can isolate those segments and send them to the different departments, and they can promote them on their social media and on their website. So again, it's all about reaching that community and bringing them to those services. A thing that we realized though was that when we were finishing the show, we would produce it and we would throw it on our TV station and we would throw it on our YouTube page. And well, our TV station is 99% English, as is our YouTube page. So why would we expect any Spanish speaker to go to that channel? It just didn't really make much sense to us that they would. So when we ran into this, we realized what our next step was gonna have to be, and that was that we were gonna have to create an expectation for Spanish language content within our channel in the Spanish-speaking community. And the way that we were gonna have to do that was we were gonna have to amass a lot of Spanish language content. And again, we don't have that many resources, so we had to come up with some strategies to do that. And we did. The first step that we took, we thought would be the easiest and the most efficient way of creating content, and it was to really build up our bulletin board slide library. How many of you guys have bulletin boards in your stations? Yeah. So I know that it's not the sexiest way of delivering communication to, you know, the public, and I know it's not the sexiest thing to be talking about in the NATOA conference, but if you do it right, and if you are really talking about issues and things that affect the community, it can be a really valuable tool for us and a really valuable resource for them. So, for example, if you do a slide that says, for the Spanish-speaking community, that says, hey, you want to learn English? We're having free English lessons at the Galindo Library every Tuesday and Thursday. Make sure you show up. That's something that they might be interested in. If we have another one that says, hey, it's flu season, don't pay for vaccinations. We're offering free vaccinations at the Mexican American Cultural Center. Bring your whole family. They might be interested in that. Celebrations, free music, free you know, festivals, those types of things. They might take a look at those and be like, like this is a cool place to, you know, come every once in a while and see what is going on, what services there are for free, what things I can be participating in. So we decided to look at our bulletin board not as a, you know, something to fill airtime, but as something that could really be a valuable resource to that community. So anyway, we started building up that library, and that has been successful for us. Another thing we started doing was we just started looking around to see who had Spanish language content already built that we might be able to air in our channel. So we looked around. A lot of the cities have Spanish content that is very specific to their own municipality. But we did find that the school district in Austin had a 30-minute show that was completely in Spanish and that dealt with just nothing but topics that really affected our community. And I'm talking about scholarships, I'm talking about how to gain college credits during high school, which that's really important for a community that might not have a lot of money to send their kids to school. If they can be already saving that money, that's really good, a really good resource for them to have. So we thought, wow, this is great. This would be awesome to be showing on our station. So we reached out to them and we were like, hey, would you guys mind if we show your Educa Austin? And actually, let me start playing a little bit of that for you.
Estamos todos listos para aprender en su programa Educa Austin, que nos brinda consejos de los expertos para involucrarnos más en la educación de nuestros hijos y apoyarlos en su camino al éxito estudiantil. Iniciamos esta media hora de información y entretenimiento para usted.
Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo está? Espero que muy bien. Gracias por sintonizar Educa Austin. Recuerde que estamos con ustedes cada sábado con este programa del distrito.
Anyway, so this is a half-hour show that just deals with nothing but topics about, you know, the Spanish-speaking community. It shows them in different events. It shows their children, just in ballet folklorico, whatever it may be. So this is great. This is exactly the content that we were looking for. So we were really grateful that they just wanted to get eyeballs on it. So they were like, yeah, sure, please play it. So it's something that now we have a nice library of 30-minute shows that we can be filling our station with. And they produce it on a regular basis, so that's really great, and we're really lucky to have formed that partnership. Then just within our station, we started looking at what we were already doing in English that we could maybe get double mileage out of. So now every time that we go out and create a piece, if we think that it's on a topic that's relevant to our Spanish speakers, we try and find a bilingual person as a subject. That way we can maybe interview them in English, interview them in Spanish, and then, you know, we can have something in English and something in Spanish. So this is one of the pieces that we did that for, and let me start playing it for you guys.
El significado del nombre de mi hija, de Victoria, ella nació de 4 libras y 6 onzas. Como nació prematura, ha pasado por una etapa muy grande, que está pasando por la etapa muy grande, porque es una victoria para nosotros. Una de las encargadas de este lugar, ella me ayudó a que cuando estuviera la niña en la incubadora, me ayudó a ponerme la niña en el pecho. Victoria, hola.
Anyway, so again, it's just a really neat program that, you know, exists for people out there, and we were gonna do a piece in English, and if we hadn't decided to interview somebody that was bilingual, then it would have only reached the English audience. But again, because of our efforts to reach the Spanish-speaking community, we looked for a subject that would be perfect for both populations, and this was a great piece that we are airing in our, as part of our Spanish content. Sometimes we don't have talent that speaks in English, and it's okay to just do subtitles. This is a PSA that Christian, sitting in the back, made, and our actor didn't know Spanish, so we just decided that we would go with subtitles for it. And it's 30 seconds, so I'll just go ahead and play it.
I'm running late, I gotta go. I'll text you later. Come on, green light, let's go.
Cero muertes, cero excusas. Visión cero. So again, just finding places where we can maybe get double mileage out of our production, because we are really, you know, under-resourced. So, and we do need to build a lot of content in order to create that expectation. So just finding those places where we can get double mileage out of our work. What we did figure out even after we were amassing all of this content was that even though we had a lot more content, throwing it out on our channel and playing it there was still not gonna be the best way of keeping that Spanish-speaking audience, because we show a lot of meetings that are in English. We also have a lot of content that is in English. So there was still a good chance that whenever they tuned into our channel, there was gonna be something in English, and we just felt that we weren't gonna be able to keep that audience by doing that. So we came up with what has been our most ambitious plan yet, which was creating a channel that has nothing but Spanish language content in it. So we did that. Now we have a online streaming channel that has nothing but Spanish language content, and it goes 24/7, and whenever a member of the Spanish-speaking community goes to it, they know that there's gonna be content in Spanish, and they know that it's gonna be content that is gonna be completely relevant to them and to their life. So we are not where we want to be in that channel. We still have to build a lot of content for it, because it is a really large endeavor. But we feel like that's a really big step for us in the direction that we want to go to, which is just reaching that audience and just creating content that is really going to affect their lives. How am I doing on time?
We'll give you like 3 more minutes.
Okay, I have 3 more minutes. So those are some of the things that we have been doing that have been working for us. I was gonna try and go online and show you guys the channel, but I don't know how the internet is working, and I don't wanna spend my 3 minutes doing that.
Okay, we'll give you 5.
Okay. All right, let me try and get to that real quick.
People might want to see it.
Okay, I'm having, here, let me just use the tab, this. I have no internet. All right. Here, hold up, 1 second. How about I do that during the Q&A if you guys want to watch that? That way I can just like move on and let my fellow presenters go ahead. And I will use that here in a bit. All right. Well, so just what I was going to talk about next is just some of the things that we have on the horizon, and really we're still a long way from getting to where we want to be. But we're getting there. Next steps for us is just to continue building that Spanish language content library, to get into the community in person and let them know, set up booths, do whatever we need to do to get face-to-face and let them know, hey, just so you know, we have the station that you can go to and you can find out about resources for you and your family. Please check us out every once in a while and just see what's going on around the city. Spanish-speaking publication ads, basically things to get eyeballs to that channel and to get that community to those services. We need to develop a Spanish social media presence because we don't have a strong one right now. So that's another thing that we're working on. And just continuing to research and keep up with the issues that are affecting that Spanish-speaking population so that we can stay current with what issues they are going through and what's affecting their lives so that we can kind of create content to satisfy those issues. Again, like I said, we don't have all the resources that we need, but we have made it an ongoing priority in our city to reach this population because it's such a large population within Austin, and we hope that we can lift them up and lift our city up as a whole in doing so, and we hope that you guys will do the same in your cities. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll leave.
Our next speaker is Amber Krasinski, and she began involvement in public access television in 2013. She was an intern at Amherst Media in Amherst, Massachusetts. She graduated from Hampshire College with a BA in Film Studies, focusing primarily in Italian film and culture. In 2016, she became the Director of Educational Services at Billerica?
Billerica. The E is silent.
Access Television. The fun thing about Amber is she plays and officiates roller derby under the name of Gluten Freedom. I think that's pretty neat. Welcome, Amber.
Hello. Yeah, so before we get started, is everybody cool if I set up the 360 camera? Yeah, for like a hot second. It's gonna die, but it's whatever. All right, so this is the GoPro Fusion, and I love it. Okay, let's get the scene right. And cool, okay. Now you can feel like you're up here too. Alrighty, so getting started. Oh, come on.
Oh no.
Yay.
Thomas to the rescue.
So at any rate, so what I'm gonna kind of go over today is our community, what we're doing at Billerica Access Television in terms of educational programming, what our strong suits have been over the past couple years, and also Billerica VR, which is a new initiative for us. started in about 2017, I believe. So I'll be discussing best practices for that, and also I'll be giving some information about where we plan to go forward, and maybe some tips and tricks for those of you that are struggling in terms of diverse media, youth programs, and if you're interested in emerging media technologies, something like that. So let's see. So anyway, Billerica is a town about 17 miles north of Boston. We're about 43,000 people, and primarily white, but we actually have a really growing, robust, oh, yay, there it is, yay. Thank you, Thomas. Okay. Thanks, all right, here we go. How many of you like memes? Everybody likes memes, all right. You've seen a starter pack, right? So when people think of Billerica, this is the stereotype. How many people know the Jimmy Fallon Boston Teens sketch? Yeah, there's actually reference to Billerica a couple times. This is actually taking place at our technical high school in town, is the running joke. So we have 3 grocery stores in town. 3? Why? There's 43,000 people, that's it. We're very big into high school sports. That's kind of our thing. Tom Glavine, if you know him, everybody loves him. Our lovely North Shore accents, you know. And finally, the lovely Boston Globe piece about town selectman George Similaris, who, frustrated with the lack of painting of the new sidewalks, got out in the middle of the night to paint them himself. Yeah, it's a quirky, awesome town, very kind of like gritty, we don't take nothing from nobody. That's the stereotype. In actuality, there we are. So we have a really long-standing colonial tradition. Our historical society is very robust. We actually have Yankee Doodle Celebration Weekend to celebrate Yankee Doodle and this guy that got tarred and feathered for trying to get guns from the British. It's a whole thing. So, like I said, about 43,000 residents, primarily white, but we do have a growing Asian population, which I'll talk about later. Pretty like middle class, mostly high school graduates, and the median range is typically early 40s, so we do have a slightly older population. But as I'll talk about later, we do have, you know, a pretty significant under 18, under 24 crowd. So this is Billerica Access Television. That's my executive director, Sam, going down a slide at our 30th anniversary party. And some of my educational program staff in the bottom picture. We also changed the whole station into a haunted house once a year, so it's really fun. But we've been around for 30-something years. We have all 3 channels, and we have Comcast and Verizon, so we are really lucky. We have a really great relationship with the town. We have 7 full-time staff, and my educational department has 5 part-time staff members who help in various capacities around the station as well. All right, here we go, youth programs. So what are youth programs? When I first started, it was 3 kids and about 15 elementary schoolers through this one program in town. That's drastically changed in the past couple years. So basically, it's primarily just specialized programming that encourages media literacy, creativity, production skills, troubleshooting, those sorts of skills, and a lot of confidence building as well for kids, usually 10 to 18. I'll take the occasional 9-year-old if they can make it work, but. We also have internships for college students and recent grads. And we have a ton of different program offerings. We have video clubs, after-school collaborations with the schools, summer programs. We did 8 sessions this year, and I was very, very pleased. It was a lot. We do a lot of like individual collaborations with teachers that want to integrate media into their curriculum while meeting state standards. And also a lot of community organization projects. Girl Scouts are kind of, they took over a lot of my time in the spring, but it was wonderful. So yeah, so that's kind of youth programs. So this is my interesting attempt at a bar chart to show my growth. I'm not exactly a bar chart person, hence why I'm into this industry, but I digress. So if you see, we started out in 2016, not a ton of stuff going on. I didn't have a ton of offerings for that summer. I was trying to gauge what the community was like, what people needed, and actually starting to make those connections before forcing programs in. And then we kind of just had an explosion there in 2016, 2017, and it's just been, generally speaking, an upward trend. The past year, we were working on restructuring with my new promotion, and also a ton of kids joined soccer randomly, so we had a little bit of a dip in numbers. So having that flexibility and understanding that, year by year trends kind of vary is really important, but making sure there is some consistency in programming has been a big part of our success. All right, so I'm gonna breeze through things. If I start turning into an auctioneer, let me know. All right, so video clubs. These are student-driven after-school clubs that meet once a week for about an hour and a half. We've tried different variations of them, but what really works is segmenting them up by age groups. And we've recently had a redistricting this school year, so the 8th grade is now in the high school, and the middle school is now 5 through 7. And that was a huge change in town. So instead of having one huge high school group, I figured developmentally it makes more sense to have the 7th through 9th there. And that's kind of how I've been gauging things, and it's been extremely successful. All the projects are student-driven. We like to say we're in the back seat until we need to hop to the driver's seat to save something. But all of these ideas are student-driven, student-directed. Students take on all the production roles. We force them to storyboard, even though they don't want to. And they learn that crucial troubleshooting, project management process from a very early on age. So these are actually the 3 students I worked with for the first several months that I was there. It was just the 3 of us, and we had a blast. Those are some students doing a production called The Quiz for Kids. And the high schoolers actually were helping with that production that day. And I also wanted to mention real quick, shout out to canva.com. If you're not using Canva to work on your promotional tools or social media, you want to get on it. They have an app. You can do something that would take you 2 hours in Photoshop in about 15 minutes. It's amazing. How many of you know what ASMR is? Unfortunately, right? So basically, a big part of youth programs for me has been talking to the kids and figuring out what do you want to do and who do you want to show it off to. And a lot of them have YouTube channels, are producing content on YouTube, are very frustrated with the fact that they don't have a lot of subscribers and they're not monetizing. So we go through that whole thing as well and breaking that down. But a big part of buy-in for youth programs is the fact that mom and dad can see it, grandma can see it, it's local, people in town can see it, and that's really cool, So what we try and do is take that content that they're interested in, even if it's cringy memes and stuff, and let them have the opportunity to express that, but on the local level, so they feel engaged in their community. So if we want to hit the play button for about 10 seconds, that's all I can handle out of this video. Yeah, bump it up.
Thank you for watching ASMR. Brought to you by...
This is one of my assistants, Faith. She's amazing, but my gosh.
Video Club. Hope you enjoy.
Okay, I'm good. I had her edit it. I started it and I was like, Faith, I can't do it. And she was like, this is great. Anyway. So it's just a fun way of getting them engaged and also thinking about, it was a great opportunity for conversation about YouTube and privacy and, even if you really do want to get in on this, this is how you're able to, make money, and oh wow, it's not that easy. So breaking that down for them was really helpful. And also, we had a Vimeo channel, and I decided to move over to YouTube, even though I'm not crazy about the flagging and all that jazz. But more of my students were on there, and I wanted to reach them and allow them a chance to share their content on their channels, so it just made more sense. So again, having those continued conversations and reiterating and, talking to them about what they like to do. So real quick, I'll go through the quiz for kids. I'm a trivia nerd. And I had a show called The Quiz when I was out in Amherst, and I decided to translate it over to Billerica and do a trivia show for kids. So basically 3 random categories that we come out with. Usually the kids are host, and we just cruise through these rounds really quickly. They get a prize at the end. They have obnoxious buzzers. I actually have to buy new ones because they keep slamming them. But it's a blast. We've been doing it for about 2 years now, and it's, they're always asking, when are we doing Quest for Kids again? So that's a really fun opportunity to get them engaged and learn, studio skills as well. So our enrichment program is one of our longest collaborations and our longest running youth programs. It's been going on for close to 20 years now. Basically, the structure is BATV develops the curriculum centered around different topics in media literacy and basic production skills, and then we team up with different schools. It's a lottery system, and they meet for several weeks, 2 hours a week, and we go over all of these skills. There's a teacher advisor, which I feel makes a really big difference because the kids kind of, they can mitigate some of the behavior issues that tend to mess with classroom management. But yeah, the kids love it. So they learn a media education topic, and then we apply it through a video. So last year, continuing with the YouTube trend, we were talking about genres of YouTube videos. We've also done stuff with advertising where they have to take a random prop and try and sell it as something else. And we talk about, racism and, dive into those categories a little bit so they can start considering how those different not so diverse identities are often shown in advertising and start considering those things, which has been a challenge in a community like Billerica that's, generally speaking, Irish Catholic, a little bit more conservative. And I've kind of been towing the line with how to address that and engage students in what's going on outside, our nice little town, while also, not making them feel alienated. So at any rate, definitely larger group numbers. We have anywhere from 15 to 19 of them coming in for 16 weeks, so it gets very loud. But it gives them an opportunity to learn all these really basic skills in a little bit more of a structured setting. We've also done a lot of class projects and teacher collaborations. This is a really good, easy inroad into getting more diverse media and getting kids involved, because if you go into the classroom and talk with them there and they can see that this subject is actually fun and here's how you make it fun, that's how you get people in. So we actually collaborated with a chemistry teacher last year and did how-to videos for how to do experiments. So kids that were struggling could watch and go through and be like, okay, that's the data I'm supposed to get. So some of the challenges, obviously, outside the station, a little less control, really early hours, 7 a.m. You have to meet those state learning standards and kind of get that buy-in in terms of administration and also with the teachers, because they have really limited time to meet a lot of very rigid, categories of education. So figuring out how to work with them on that. And again, it's listening to them and their needs and what they're looking for. Big classes. This project probably had about 85 students on it, and they were editing with 3 versions of Go of iMovie, so that was a challenge. You have to have students sign waivers, obviously, and just discussing the project workflow and expectations prior to diving in and promising anything is super important, because that's how you can break down what this project is going to be, how many hours it's going to entail, how much human capital. Lots of communication. Like I mentioned before, we do a lot of independent student projects as well. This is kind of on a case-by-case basis with me. It's a lot of time commitment, but the product can be amazing. So my first short film I did with a student, it was a neo-noir, dark comedy, murder mystery. It was a whole thing. And we got to, learn about really quick, production timelines, things like that. But Sean was actually able to use this to get into the film program at Keene State College. And he was really, really excited. He was able to use the trailer to talk about his experience and stuff. So that was really a good part of his application process. Last summer, I had an intern that came in and did a short film that they submitted to a festival. They didn't get in, but it was a good learning experience and a learning process. And one of the student projects that I'm most proud of is Am I Next? This was through a co-design course at MIT. We're fortunate enough to be kind of close to the city. So basically, co-design is the idea that the communities that you are working with, the marginalized communities with these problems that you're trying to solve, they are the experts on the situation, rather than this top-down, the designer knows best. Like, how nice would it be if Apple came up to you and said, okay, you're having issues with your iPhone, what are they? and just saying that. Wouldn't that be nice? So that's kind of the idea of co-design. So one of the things that they talked about was, what is your industry that you're in? What is your population? What issues are they dealing with? And the Parkland shooting had happened, and I had been struggling with coming up with a project, and this was kind of what I keyed in on, because we were having a lot of student conversations during video club times about these issues, and it was eating up a lot of our time, but really not, because that needed to happen. So rather than just having this circular conversation, I wanted to produce something out of it. So I brought on 2 high school students that acted kind of as my project managers and my main producers. And we all worked together to, at least develop a trailer with the intention of eventually producing the short film. So this was one of the flow charts I had to do. I had to do a 30-page report on this. This was in my free time class, because I'm a nerd. But yeah, so basically we talked about gun violence in high school settings, student activism, different student perspectives, and getting the gamut of those perspectives, and just allowing students to share experience. Because like I mentioned, parts of Billerica are very conservative, but those voices need to be heard as well. So if I could just show request to access, why? Oh, I'm signed out, that's why. Okay, maybe I can do the same thing with the Q&A if I have time. But at any rate, it's on our Facebook page, and if you email me, I can send it over to you. But it's a really well done. It was their first attempt at After Effects, and I actually had several professors come up and ask if the students could work on media projects for them. So just giving them that space to troubleshoot through it on their own while just supporting them and giving that structured, this is how you do project management, that was extremely successful. And one of my favorite shows, Jake's Rants and Raves. So this is a monthly show with one of my high school students who has since become one of my part-timers. He's been involved since he was 9 years old, and he is now a senior, yeah. So basically, Jake would come into my office a ton, and he would just complain for hours and complain. So instead of eating up all my time while I'm trying to do, like payroll and, my job, I was like, Jake, let's make something out of this. So we made Jake's Rants and Raves. So basically the premise is I give Jake a random activity to do, and he has no idea what he's doing until he walks in or goes to the location, and then we just do it. And he either complains about it, loves it, complains about his life, he just goes off. So yeah, so Jake tries to do it. We've done everything from sushi to karate. We did ghost hunting. He learned knitting. We did farm work. That was a blast. It's a very flamboyant East Coast version of Hastings Community Television's Take a Hike, Mike. So if you haven't seen Take a Hike, Mike, you should watch that. It's the Minnesota version of our show. But the great thing about this project in particular is that Jake is really interested in social media. So this is an opportunity for him to explore SEO and hashtag and analytics and all of that through social media content. And we've actually translated that into an extended learning opportunity through his school to advance his social media skills and bring it over to our educational programs, social media. So we're able to leverage that and kind of build on those skills in a really low stakes setting. Sometimes hashtags don't work, and you figure it out. It's also a really great opportunity for what I like to call sneaky queer representation, because both the co-hosts, myself and Jake, are part of the LGBTQ community, but we're not specifically addressing queer issues. But since we are present, and a lot of our students do watch this show and identify with that as well, or are exploring, what it means to be themselves. They're able to see Jake, and they're able to follow his show. We actually have fan accounts with some of my younger students for Jake's show. And I've had students come up to me and say, thanks for showing this, because my mom is, cool with Jake, and he's a very flamboyant high schooler. It's fantastic. It's a really good show. I'm a little biased, but. All right. How am I doing on time?
I guess I have to give you 5 more minutes as well, huh?
Okay, I'll wrap it up. Okay, I do a lot of things, guys. So Billerica VR. So yeah, so this is a project I really feel passionately about kind of being ahead of the curve and kind of thinking about what's the next thing that is going to be an accessibility issue in terms of media. So I started learning about virtual reality in 360, and I actually went to a Silicon Valley conference in 2016 to kind of get in there and figure out what on earth are they talking about. So 49% of VR and augmented reality is enterprise-based. So a lot of these apps and everything you're seeing are actually advertisements. And they're being very sneaky. They're very concerned with ROI, you know, their metrics and all of that. They don't really care about content or the actual viewership or the fact that maybe somebody shouldn't have a headset on for 4 hours. And those sorts of things, and not providing voices for the people that are actually going to be using that technology. So I said, screw that, okay? And I decided to start giving opportunities for the community to explore these things and kind of break down they're not so scary. This can be really fun and a really unique way to tell your story and make people feel the way you're feeling. So yeah, so this is Flynn. He's a co-op student through one of our high schools, and he did this lovely SpongeBob-style how to do 360 video. It's on our educational program's YouTube. It's very funny. So yeah, so, oh. Let me go back. So yeah, so basically the big idea of 360 video is that it's immersive. You feel like you're there the whole time. It's really great for experiencing a whole experience, for lack of a better word. And this can actually be shown to produce empathy in people, like on a neurological standpoint. So my goal with Billerica VR is to create kind of a community collaborative for this new type of storytelling, and also I have some initiatives with the Historical Society I'm working on developing, because accessibility to these really random colonial sites can be hard. So if people, you know, aren't able to physically go there but are interested in this topic, they have the opportunity to, you know, pop on a headset, go on YouTube, and feel like they're right there. We do a lot of stuff with youth programming, obviously. We use this program called Co-Spaces, and it's a free, well, it was free, but now you have to pay a little bit. Teachers use it to have students do 3D and really basic coding for different scenes, or they even use it for science to recreate DNA in 3D. And you can actually open up an app and use this on a Google Cardboard, so students not only are learning basic coding skills and troubleshooting, but also how to give a full experience for their audience member and control where they're looking through audio or visual cues. And this has been one of my most successful programs. For VR and 360 week, I had 2 sessions, a morning and afternoon. My morning session had 22 kids, and my afternoon had 17. It was a bit much, but we had a really great time. And now we're doing a lot more creative 360 filmmaking, using weird angles, kind of really playing around with the experimental nature of this and pushing the boundaries and trying to figure out what works. So looking forward, I'm diving into the world of adult ed courses and also more community collaborations. I'm working on having an early high school enrichment program. They have, you know, it's a film studies program, but it could definitely use some improvement, so I'm hoping to build upon that. I want to go into the COA and show, you know, senior citizens and older people in the community VR. Imagine being 85 years old, you haven't been able to go fishing because of a shoulder injury, and you can just flick your wrist a little bit. How nice would that be? Collaborating with the Interfaith Council and doing diverse programming through that. This collaboration with the library called Book Realms, which is combining co-spaces, which I'm comfortable with, and, you know, book promotion, which the library is comfortable with. And students are creating scenes from these favorite books that they bring in, and you get to experience them. The community is going to come in February and be able to experience those as well. And like I said, adult media classes, I'm exploring what adults want to learn. Adults are much harder to work with than children, I'm realizing. So yeah, so I'm trying to kind of see what the community needs and go from there. We might actually do creative writing for role-playing games. So anyway, that camera's dead. So yeah, basically, talk with the community. Another big thing that I like to suggest to my students and also to people is the idea of move up, move back. If you're somebody that is prone to talking more and talking over people or sharing your ideas first, take a step back and encourage those people that aren't like that to move forward. And just thinking about the ways that you can address the different biases and prejudices in your community in sneaky sort of ways that they're not really always realizing, you know? So yeah, so this is all my information. This is me on roller skates. I was a pizza roll. And that was us with how we're feeling about going back to school. So at any rate, feel free to connect with me. Sorry if I went over. So sorry.
All right, well, thank you, Amber. Our next speaker is Deborah Guthrie. She is the Communications Director, PIO for Meridian Township. She develops communications best practices and procedures through digital and print communications, including media and public relations. She's a graduate of Michigan State. She started out as an intern. Today, she is the first communication/PIO director for the township. And she's got a pretty awesome Facebook page. So.
Thank you. Well, that's not the first slide. So I didn't give any fun little tidbits about me, so while we pull up the first slide, I'll tell you, since you probably can't tell. I'm a proud grandmother of 2. I have a 7-year-old grandson, and I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and next weekend I'm taking my grandson to Disney World with me. It's his first time. I go to Disney World all the time, because it's just happy. And so it's his first time, so we're celebrating my birthday. And I am a gigantic Metallica fan. Woo. I listen to Metallica every single morning. I've gone to their concerts. I love them, so I listen to them every morning. Thank you. Wherever I may roam, I'm listening to Metallica. And then in the evening, when I come home from work, I usually have a glass of wine or maybe a shot of whiskey, and I listen to jazz. I love jazz music, and so I'm winding down in the evening and rocking it out in the mornings. So that's something about me. Let's see, how do I do this? I'm super not technical. I really struggled with putting this presentation together, I have to be honest. When I was asked to do this, I thought, geez, I'm this Caucasian female asked to give a presentation on diversity in media and tapping the Fountain of Youth on diversity in media. And so I've redone this presentation 4 times, and I redid it again this morning, an hour before I came here. So hopefully it's something that is worthy of your time. It's a little personal, but it's also about my community. It's about us as a community and an organization, and it's about empowering people. I started off as an intern in '96 at Home TV. It's our government access channel. We're in Michigan. We're in the middle of the state by Michigan State University. It's a gigantic university. I'm sure you've heard of it. So I started off in '96 as an intern. I was unpaid for a year. I worked over 30 hours a week. At that time, I was a single mom with 2 kids, and I really wanted to be on ESPN. And so in '97, I worked for ESPN for a year, which is how I met my husband. He's their top dog for broadcast engineering. I have no clue what he does. I know he does magic, and they love him for it. In '98, Meridian Township contacted me and said, we'd like you to come back. We'd like you to apply for this production manager position. And I said yes. Why did I say yes? Why did I leave ESPN? Because my family grew up in Meridian Township. My mom and my dad met at Okemos High School, and they got married. I mean, sure, they got a divorce the month I was born, but my family was raised there. My grandpa built homes in this community. I'm raising my children there. I love Home TV and what Home TV stands for. So I came back, and I've been there ever since. In 2000, I was promoted to the senior production manager. In '97, I was promoted to the station manager. In 2012, I was the first communications director, PIO, and we created a communications department. I'm retiring at the end of this year. It is a very weird situation for me to be in. It's awkward because I am actually writing my own position out of all of our policies. And so it is a very strange place to be in, and I'm actually pitching that next week to our Communications Commission, who will be overseeing it. And so we are changing up how we're doing things based off of where we think we're going in the future and where we think we will be and how we can best move forward with what we think the funding will be. And so while it's emotional to leave Meridian Township because I put my heart and soul in home TV in Meridian Township, it's also very exciting because they have some very exciting ventures coming up. And so I started thinking about diversity in media, diverse producers, equal content that truly reflects our community. And I had to contact people I know who have gone through home TV and told their diverse stories, and contact people I know in the community who are telling the story of the community members, and this is hopefully nothing new for you. This is Alex Brace. He is the second person to oversee the Children's Advocacy Center for Children's Small Talk. Children's Small Talk is a nonprofit organization that helps children tell their story, children who have been physically and sexually abused. Home TV has been a media sponsor for Children's Advocacy Center since they launched. I don't know, about 10 years ago or something like that. It is something very dear to my heart. My mother was an attorney. She was a divorce attorney. I used to have to go to, she was a single mom. I used to have to go to law school with her when she didn't have daycare. I used to have to go to battered women's shelters with her when she didn't have daycare. And so it's something that means a lot to me. And I thought, this is something, we're a community in Meridian Township. This is our community. These are our children. We should sponsor this type of work. Alex is fantastic, and I'm so glad to know him and be a continued part of this. This is Ansu. She's from India. And then Rocky in the orange shirt, that's his friend John. All of them came to America for some reason or another. The reason I know them is because I made a final promise to our economic development director that I would do business videos on each one of our business districts. I said, I promise to do these videos. And it started off as me eating everything on the face of the earth at every single restaurant because I love food. If you ever follow me on Facebook or Instagram, I'm basically shoving food in my mouth all the time. If you look at, I shared a picture on our app of those lemon tart things. I literally wanted to steal like the entire plate and take them to my room and just eat them all. I'm totally in love with food. So that's how this started. My good friend, that's her mother, she recently had a mural. All of those paintings are hers. She's this fantastic artist, and for years I've been saying, we have to show your art. All of this is hidden. All of this art that you've drawn has shown a story of India, your story, their story, everyone's story. We have to share this. The city of Lansing, our neighbor, our neighboring community, they launched this art mural program. I would not know about this art program, which showcases diversity in our community, if it wasn't for my friend who has a completely different background than me. And I'm so thankful for that. And we went and interviewed her mother, and just the stories behind, her walls are plastered. The entire condo is plastered with paintings. She's phenomenal. But the stories she told us behind those is what was absolutely incredible. Meeting Rocky, which if you ever come to the middle of Michigan, this is On the Rocks liquor store. They have the most liquor you've ever seen in your life. I swear to heaven. It is floor to ceiling, and they will do a taste testing for you. I didn't know that until I met them. Instant friends, instantly fell in love, but it was his story about coming here and his story about that particular business district and why he loves having his business located there and why he loves the other businesses that are there and what Meridian Township did or didn't do for him to help him get there. And just hearing these stories, you know, I started thinking about how am I gonna, talk about diversity in media, because yes, I'm supposed to talk about launching the Mandarin News show that we did, but there's a story behind us launching that. And it's their story of Natalie. Her son passed away. He died at age 5 of a disease. Shane Goodale, his son Will Goodale, he passed away. Both of them are doing work in the community, raising money to help other people in the community. This young man received a check so that he could further his career in law enforcement. It's their story of their children. We have been media sponsors of them since day one, since they lost their child and they walked in our studio with tears in their eyes. They are good friends to this day. That's who we are. It's the voice of the voiceless. It's giving these voices to people. It's empowering them to be able to go through these moments in their life and tell their story, because we all have an authentic story to tell. It's these young ladies here in our community who I happened to run into at a Governor Whitmer event at somebody's house, and I don't remember if it was her that introduced me to them or somebody else. But it's their story of how they launched a nonprofit organization to provide sanitary products for women in America. I thought that only happened overseas. No, boy, was I dead wrong. It's getting to know the people in your community and finding out what's actually happening. Our leaders, it's the story of our leaders. Yes, they have a voice. Yes, they have a platform. Yes, they contact us and say, hey, we want to be on your show. It's the story of our state rep, Sam Singh, who calls me up and says, Deborah, I've got this healthcare plan for seniors. I want to protect seniors. My mom's a senior. It's been very difficult for her. So to have him on my show, I'm not a senior. I really don't know what those struggles are. But I know what my mom's struggling through. My husband's 17 years older than me. I know what he's going through with his insurance, what he's gonna need in the future. So we understand that having him come on and tell the story of the seniors and having the seniors come on and tell their story, it's them being a voice for the voiceless. It's us being a voice for the voiceless. It's our state senator, Curtis Hertel in the middle, dear friend of mine, calling me up and saying, Deborah, I'm launching a Yes Means Yes campaign. I want to come on your program. We have got to stop this. We need to talk about yes means yes and what that means and protecting women in our community. And constantly, he kind of actually bombards me a lot, wanting to come on and talk about not his platform, but being a voice for the voiceless. It's about Milton Scales, our former township trustee, who launched a Black advocacy group at our local high school, and us doing a Black History Month. It wasn't about us doing a Black History Month. It was about the voices of the students at Hazlitt High School forming a group and having their voice be heard. It's about home TV being a media sponsor of that and being an outlet for them to have their voice be heard. It's all around us. Without being a part of the community, we can't be a voice for the voiceless. It's us in this room. It's my good friend Jan Howard, who used to live in Michigan, who fought the fight for us to PEG channels to remain. It's Elaine McLean in the middle there. It's Mitzi. It's my good friends at the ACM up there, up in the corner. It's us going to each other's station, hearing from you good folks up here and sharing your story with us about how to do things better, how to be an advocate for everyone in our community, the youth, the seniors, the bilingual. It's all of that. It's all of us saying, here we are, we're a voice for the voiceless. It's in the middle there, Ben Stark, who launched Home TV in 1984, the very first intern, Hap Hosh, who was a longtime advocate. It's Lynn Meikle next to me in that photo. She used to be my boss, and she stepped down to raise a family, and now she works for me. She and I work together. We've been working together for years. It's our story. It's the executive board up there. It's Mike Watts and I down there having a unsuccessful program that had technical difficulties, so this thing never aired. But it's him and I fighting all the time. I feel like I've been fighting my entire life to keep funds for home TV to tell the story for those who aren't able to tell the story, who don't have an outlet to tell the story, to encourage them to tell their story. That's what it's about right there. It's about our internship program, and this is how I promise I'm getting to launching our bilingual program. It's about our internship program. Our internship program is sort of the redheaded stepchild where we're at. Some people love it, some people don't. Most people love it. It's about students who don't have an opportunity. It's about not being able to go to a news station and touch equipment, right? Not being able to edit because there's union rules. So luckily we're next to Michigan State University. I literally can walk over there from my house. I can probably walk there from home TV, but that's exercise at that point. It's about those two girls on either side of me. Roya, she became a good friend of the family. And she now works, I gave her a recommendation. She went to New York, worked for NFL. She called me up, she said, Deborah, I have 3 opportunities. What should I do? And I said, Roya, I'm gonna be selfish. My husband works for the Lions, and I know the Lions family. Lomas Brown is amazing. As soon as you walk in that door and introduce yourself, they're gonna totally welcome you in. I know the Lions have like a bad record on the field, but I know some of those people behind the scenes in the organization, and I know their community. So she's working for the Lions now. Ray, next to me, she asked me for a letter of recommendation to go to Europe to do film study for women, and she's over there doing that right now. Fantastic. Ling in the middle, she was our last part-time social media position that we had. I fought for years to try to get it full-time, but now it's dissolved, so that position's gone. But she did that position for a while this year, and she launched the bilingual news program with her. And then it's just all the other people that have come across our path who are out there reporting internationally. That group of people, most of them are reporting nationally, but then we have one who's in Sao Paulo, international reporter. So it's having the tools to empower our young people, anyone, our seniors, the baby boomers, millennials, whoever it is, to encourage them to have a voice, to showcase who they are and who their community is, no matter what their cultural background is. It's about having an outlet to be able to do that. In the United States, this is the amount per hour that different cultural backgrounds, ethnicities are watching the news. In contrast, this is the makeup of the TV newsroom. It sort of shocks me to go back and look and see who's watching and then who's making it. And I actually felt awful when I saw this, but I started thinking about all the ways in which we can come together collectively to help each other tell our stories. And I hope that we are moving in that direction. This is census data for Meridian Township. We're basically made up of Hazlet and Okemos community. You can see the Asian population in Okemos and Hazlet is the highest diverse population that we have in our community. And so that is partly why we decided to launch a bilingual Mandarin news version. Michigan State's right next door. They have a large international student population. Just looking at their data and what the makeup is of their student population, not only their students, their undergrads and their faculty as well. So all of these factors went into consideration for launching. I'm literally standing on my tippy toes so I can see the TV right there. I'm really not this tall. For launching the Mandarin version of the news channel. Before we did that, this is Miguel. He was here with us for, I don't know, year and a half. Love him, adorable. I said, what are you doing? And he said, what do you mean? I said, you've been here for like a year and you're a fantastic reporter. I said, why don't you put together a Spanish version of the news that we do? I said, you need to get your reporting tape out there. You gotta show both. You know, he's so good. So I don't know if we don't have to. So he did. It's that video plays somehow. This is behind the scenes.
Y todos los que usan el servicio CARA deberían estar atentos al cambio de unas rutas. Tengo más información sobre esos cambios aquí en Meridian News Now, tu fuente para noticias de la comunidad.
He went from home TV to Vegas, did both newscasts in Vegas, English, Spanish, and now he's in Philadelphia. Please look him up. He's on Instagram. He has great Instagram posts. We did one show. He left. That's how it works at home TV. The students leave. We now don't have any more programs. But we really wanted to make a concerted effort to launch the Mandarin version. And we thought about, okay, well, we were able to do this with Miguel, and let's work with our local Greater Lansing Chinese Association, because we don't know the language. There's nobody in our office that knows it. We have a student who's converting the language for us, and we don't have a check and balance system. So we asked them, you know, can you work with us? Can you work with the student and work on launching this program with us? And then we bought equipment for Ling so that she could run the prompter herself, because there was no one in the control room who knew what she was saying. And so we bought this for her, which is not unheard of in the news industry. If you go to a newsroom, you know, your local news station, the anchors are all running their own prompters. They usually have a foot pedal thing, though. We probably have the cheaper version. So she's, you know, running her own prompter to make this happen. There may be a video clip there.
报警短信可能会花更长时间收到，也有收不到的可能性。当你使用漫游服务时，无法使用短信报警。报警短信会收取流量或者短信费用。如果您所在的地区无法使用短信报警服务。
So she does this every week. She takes our newscast. We had daily newscasts, which we are reducing that to weekly newscasts by the end of the year. But she would take the best of the week and condense that into one news show so that we could communicate with the Asian population that's in Meridian Township about what the heck is happening around here. You know, and that's one of the things we heard from, there's this welcoming committee that welcomes international students in, and one of the things that they found that they were struggling with was communicating what's going on in the community. And Meridian Township is the largest community where Asians are living in our region. So we wanted to make sure we at least were communicating, you know. I still struggle with telling the story. And so I reached out to my good friend, Manti, Simon Chow. He was an intern, I don't even know when, maybe early 2000s, I'm not sure. He and I have become friends ever since. And we constantly talk with each other. I follow this is his Facebook page, his personal Facebook page. You can friend him if you'd like. And Simon is, he's down there every day with the Hong Kong protests. He's been there since day one. And he sent me this picture. This is what he wears on the street. This is what he wears every day. So he created a mini documentary about the protesters' view of what's happening down there. And I was in tears. I was on Monday watching he sent me so many videos, boots on the ground, behind the scenes stuff that was just unbelievable. I didn't even know that this was happening until I saw it on his Facebook page. Anybody see the USA Today paper this morning? So I said, you know what, I'm gonna look and see if there's any updates on it, nothing. There was a fantastic story about a family from Guatemala that broke my heart, but that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, right? The voice of the voiceless. So I don't know if we can just play it's just a quick clip. The protesters in this documentary are questioning how much longer they're going to continue to do this. They're arguing with each other about whether or not what they're doing, if they should continue to do what they're doing. And so now that the bill has been dropped, they're really questioning this. This is his mask. He had a tear gas can explode right near him, and so that's his mask with his blood on it. It's really nice. But I am just so appreciative of him for being boots on the ground, and I'm so appreciative of all these interns who have come through home TV with zero experience, absolutely none, learn how to become a journalist, and are out there telling the story of the voiceless, of people who are not able to tell their story. When I look at USA Today, or I look at Washington Post, or I look at my local news, I'm not always hearing the voice of the voiceless. I'm hearing it through boots on the ground people that I know, PEG channels, public, educational, government. I am hearing those stories from our community and from other communities as well, and I just love hearing those stories. This is a wall that was taken down. All of these Post-it notes were taken down, and they have since been put back up. He has some other photos on his Facebook page like that as well. He told me the next step is October 1st. It's Chinese National Day, and the people have come up with their own anthem separate from the Chinese national anthem. Can you play this? And so this is what may be the next step. This is in a mall. I sometimes feel so engrossed in my own community. I don't know if you feel this way, or my own life, my own home, what's going on, helping my mom through her senior care, or my kids get new jobs, or my grandkid who, I don't know, doesn't get an A in his math in first grade or something. I'm so engrossed sometimes in my own community. I'm putting out so much information in Meridian Township that sometimes I'm not focused on what's happening outside of there. And so I'm so grateful to form that's Simon right there. That's his ex-boss, actually, but they ran into each other during the protest on June 9th. I'm so grateful for all of the relationships that I've made in the 22 years or whatever that I've been with Meridian Township, and knowing all of every single person that's out there telling the story of the people. This is just a few more. I know I'm out of time. This is a couple more people who went through the Home TV internship program, who are international reporters, who are doing work and telling the story and working in government overseas, working for Facebook here in San Francisco, telling the story. Adrienne Braz is a dear friend of mine. I adore her, love her. She had like zero confidence when she started, and she is the most confident, and she's brilliant reporter. She has won so many Emmys. I just love her. And Timon Fernandez, I love them both. I follow everything they do on Instagram. Anyways, that's me. Thank you. I hope we can continue to tell the voice of the voiceless. I hope we continue to empower people to tell their story. And I'm so glad to be part of this panel and to hear your stories and what you're doing in your community. Thank you.
Well, we are officially out of time. Sorry. That's all right. That's all right. It was great information. I think it was well worth us running over. Don't you agree? Yes. They'll be around. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer questions if you see them. Enjoy lunch.